Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Today on the Observe Day podcast, we're celebrating National Piano Month with a guest whose life embodies the marriage of music and imagination. Christopher Kaufman is a fantasy author, composer, and creative visionary based in Brooklyn, New York. With a doctorate in music composition, Christopher has spent years composing symphonic and cinematic works while weaving them into his epic fantasy series, Tales of the Ocean City. His books aren't just stories, they're immersive experiences, blending literature with music, narration, sound design, and visual arts. Christopher believes imagination is transformative, and through his heart, he seeks to rekindle that spark in us all. Today we'll explore how the piano and music at large shape his storytelling and creative journey. Welcome to the podcast, Christopher.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here with you tonight.
Yeah. National Piano Month is all about honoring the instrument. What role has the piano played in your journey as a composer and storyteller?
Well, quite a significant one. I started playing piano when I was a student at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts a long time ago, and I was also singing and playing oboe and many things, but I started piano then. And as a composer, it's a prime instrument, a tool for composing. I performed on it for many years too. I was a member of a duo with my friend George Rosenbaum called the Rosenbaum Kaufman Duo, and we toured around and I composed many pieces for us to perform. And then even now, when I'm composing using Logic and such, my programs, there's my keyboard and I'm performing the music in, then working with it as I get it into the system. And I have a keyboard and I perform. So piano is, fundamental and just really important to a composer.
Yeah, you earned a doctorate in music composition. How does that formal training connect to the fantasy worlds you create?
Well, if you hear the audio album, you'll hear music that's very, highly evolved symphonic, cinematographic music. And it took years, to be able to do it. And now I can
Yeah.
do it very quickly, almost at an improvisational speed. But it took many years to make a composer out of myself. And school was instrumental. My teachers were all, that's where we went, my friends and I, to work with specific teachers. And they were primarily instrumental into who I became as a composer and why I became one.
Yeah. Well, when you most of your works, they're cinematic, they're creative, the write-ups, they combine with music. And can you walk us through how a piece begins and then evolves into a full imaginative experience?
Well, I can talk about this specific piece, which
Okay.
is my epic fantasy series, Tales of the Ocean City. Now, I started, years ago, I started writing books, fantasy books with colorful illustrations, like when I was 9. But then I discovered music, as I mentioned, at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, and became a composer and lived the life of a composer for many years. But my stories never left me. Type of person, I don't know, maybe you are too, where I put myself to sleep with imaginative scenarios,
Yeah.
I can't sleep unless
Daydream.
I get really involved in the. So I emerged from Cornell University with my advanced music degrees, but also the complete event structure of Tales of the Ocean City in my head, all the way through book 8, which I'm writing now. But so it's early 2000s. I'm out of school. I'm doing my arts performance group, Karan Performing Arts, and all this stuff. And I started, okay, it's time. And I started writing my book down, my stories. And it just wasn't quite there yet until I developed my home laboratory where I compose with the Logic program that you use with film music. And that's where I learned my chops writing independent films. And then I started narrating aloud and recording myself and creating the music all at the same time as one experience. And that's when it really started happening. Right. So it was an evolution over time that continues. And that's the
Well,
inception of this piece.
yeah.
Each one is its own story.
Yeah. While I was listening to the works you sent, it just became so clear that music is central to your um to your especially the Tales of the Ocean City series. And for me, I know you have a background in music, but why is music so important in the way you tell stories?
Well, I'm a composer. It's like sometimes I feel that the text is accompanying the music, you know, in these works, and
Yeah.
it's just really fundamental. It's just a very natural, organic thing that in order to express myself, that's what happens. That's how I interact with the world. Otherwise, I sometimes might not have much to say in a group of people, but until we get onto the music part of things, and then you can't shut me up. So it's just over time who I evolved to be. And that's like I said, with these stories, they didn't really come to life. I didn't find my voice as a writer until I started doing the music along with it. Right. So it's just fundamental to the whole process. When I was young and high school, I had my time where I listened to the music of Stravinsky every day. I called it my summer of Stravinsky. And every day I was listening to Petrushka and the Rite of Spring and symphony in three movements and these sort of things. And then composing all day and playing oboe all night for 4 hours. And then, by the end of it, I was a composer. Sure, I was just talking about how I had this summer of listening to the music of Stravinsky every day, and it gave me my life direction, as well as the great teachers I had at the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. One guy, Dr. Bro, was the classical music guy, but Ellis Marcellus was there. Wynton Marcellus and Branford Marcellus were co-students. And so we were inspiring each other and talking. And I just glommed. I didn't have a father, so my teacher, Dr. Bro, came like a father figure to me. And I followed him
Yeah.
around like geese do, like baby geese follow the mom. And in fact, Winton would call me Little Doc. He said, "Hey, Little Doc," like that, because I was following Dr. Bro around all the time. And so, the music, the people, the experiences, the life direction all happened at that point. And fundamental to my artistic life was the music of Stravinsky. And you can hear it influencing just about all the music I write, some way or another.
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah. Since you've been combining cinema, symphonic music, and the fantasy stories, how have you seen it change the way the audience experience the fantasy compared to the traditional storytelling?
Well, one of the most fundamental ways that they experience it uniquely to this project is the emotions. So they get a really strong feeling from the music. It's unmistakable, and so it really guides them into a deeper place with the experience. So it's immersive. It's like being inside of a movie and being a part of it, and all the
Yeah,
characters come to life. So it's just more visceral and more powerful that way. Not that it's, not as powerful for an author who just reads their words. So it's not like something's better. It's just this is who I am and what I do. And so it comes together into as fulsome an expression as possible.
well, one of the key things you said, I noticed while I was doing my research, is you said imagination has been degraded by modern
Mm.
life. Now, how does music, especially piano, help nurture and restore imagination?
Well, the idea there is that I think we look around us and we see the world as grayer than it maybe used to be. Nature is diminished. What used to be a glorious, like fantastic, amazing forest or jungle is now a parking lot. We have fluorescent lights and everything has walls and is square and you know so elevators, it's all great stuff, but it degrades the imagination. And then of course our culture uh, dumbs people down for business reasons, for
Mm.
selling and marketing and all that kind of thing. So in order to recover that, um, people can avail themselves of powerful music and fantasy stories. And of
Yeah.
course, the piano is a great instrument because when you see someone playing piano, even if it's in the context of a huge concerto, you
Yeah.
identify with the piano and the pianist as an individual that you are connected to. So you can experience everything through the piano and the pianist. Very,
Hmm.
it's in everywhere. I mean, it's in jazz. I was listening to Oscar Peterson today. It's great. It's in jazz, every style of music, even like Nora Jones, just any like singer songwriter. They're playing the guitar too, of course, but there are a lot of pianists. They're playing the piano. You're connecting the piano and the voice is fused together. You hear the song and you feel the music. And it's the same in my music too.
Yeah. Uh, I want us to step back a bit. Do you see parallels between, practicing the piano and practicing imagination in that they both require discipline and freedom at once?
That's a good way to put it. I'll use that next time I'm teaching someone their scales. But
Uh,
yes, I mean, you get like I teach piano too, so it's like my students. I can see the ones that don't quite practice enough. They don't get past the work part of it.
hmm,
They get stuck. It's like they're always pushing the rock up the hill. But those who practice just enough to get to the other side, they're rolling down the hill with the music and they're feeling it and experiencing it. And it's a real form of freedom, right? And so that's a perfect example of working your way to the place. And even nowadays, reading a fantasy story, for
yeah,
example, so much is given with videos and movies that it's not quite the same. When you read it and your mind creates the imagery in your mind, your imagination works to create it and you see it and feel it. It's a much more powerful experience and less passive. It's an active experience, a creative experience to read and feel and see. And I love movies. Big fan of the Lord of the Rings movies. No problem there. My mom was an actor, so I love acting. It's a great art form. But so it's nothing against that. But the action and the work it takes to read a lot is really just freedom creating. And then when you go around your life and you're actively imagining what you're going to do with yourself or
hmm,
dealing with a situation or any of those kind of life uh, occurrences, your imagination is much stronger and can help you through them.
yeah. No, one of the key things I believe is that every artist has a part of them in every piece of their work. What autobiographical elements do you think sneak into your stories and compositions?
Well, that is a grand question. I'll be kind of specific here. So I was writing the first book, which is called Battle in the Sky, where the main character named Harlut and his lifelong companion, who is a Pariant, which is a telepathic Pegasus, and they're bonded like family. They're really close, and they're flying over the southern plain, and he's preparing to join in the city life. He's leaving his island home, right? And then he sees the princess, and he goes over to say hello, and then they're attacked by the enemy Vorm warriors, which is what
Yeah.
it's about. The first series, the Vorm War epic battle. And so I was writing this, and the whole first book is this long, visceral, wonderful, battle scene, battle in the sky. She's fighting and he's fighting, and the Parians are fighting, and they're doing all this stuff. And I realized at some point that I was reliving a little bit of my own personal life
Hmm.
because when I was young, I witnessed my father being very violent with my sister, Alexandria. And so I realized that the princess, there's this huge Vorm war chief, and he slices her up with he damages her and wounds her and all this kind of thing. And so I realized that I was living through that, and the super positive conclusion at the end. And her story arc later in the book, when she returns as a kind of almost a superhero figure and leads, is wonderful and has a very positive conclusion. Spoiler alert. But I realized that was living through an autobiographical part of my life. And
Yeah.
then at the end of that book, when the captains of the guard arrive, the sister twain, And I realized this. So they had different names, and then I renamed them Alacia and Alexa. And my two sisters are named Alice and Alexandria, so, and that the way that then their whole character life became much more vivid and powerful and meaningful to me in their roles when they pick Harloot up at the end. He's not that wounded, but he's knocked out, and they're taking him back to the city. But it was very much like the kind of things I experienced when I was young. My older sister Alice was like this great influence and my first teacher, and she gave me The Hobbit when I was 10. Got me going
Yeah,
in the fantasy world, So it all tied together.
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. The question I was about asking when you mentioned spoiler alert, I was like, I'm curious. You mentioned that the character in the book, it's influenced by the story of your sister and the experience she had with your dad. How's your sister? Did it turn out like in real life? Did it turn out where
It
is she
absolutely
doing well?
did.
Okay, yeah,
She, in her heroic transformation, she now has a rescue ranch out in Oregon with horses and stuff like that. Horses, again, because the Parians, the horses, Pegasus is. So that's been a big part of it. And so, yeah, she's doing great. She found
yeah,
a really wonderful man to marry and is happy.
yeah. Well,
So
that's
in my
that's good
book,
to know.
she returns and is a heroic figure. So it's like
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad that it both worked out because usually, most times authors they they create stories to leave the possible good scenarios of the things that did not happen in real life. Yeah, but I'm glad that both happened, right? So that's a good
Yes.
thing. Yeah, you did mention Stravinsky as someone who has really influenced your work. Other than Stravinsky, what other
Other
what's the word?
composers.
Yeah, other composers influenced your
Well,
musical yeah journey.
Stravinsky was important. And then when I went into conservatory, my teachers were great composers. There's you probably wouldn't know their names unless you're in music, the musical
Yeah,
world, but there was several of them are Pulitzer Prize winning famous people in my world. And Donald Erb, ERB, was really powerful. You should listen to his music. ERB orchestra, incredible orchestra music. Gene O'Brien and Carl Husa was very famous, and Stephen Stuckey. So these teachers were very instrumental. Other composers that you would know, Debussy, and of course Edgar Varese, who was also Frank Zappa's favorite composer. And the composers of my time, my friends, these were all powerful influences on my music, the musical part of my life.
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I did prepare a lightning round of questions to ask you. These are quick fire questions. You give quick
Okay,
responses to. You ready?
I'll do my best. Sure.
Who's your favorite piano composer of all time?
Favorite piano composer? I have to say Chopin right now.
Okay.
I'm teaching Chopin to my daughter,
From,
so it's in my head.
yeah. What's the first piece you ever played? You ever learned on the piano? What's the first piece you ever learned
There were
on
the
piano?
short pieces by Ernst Krenek, which anybody ever heard of. But
Okay.
he was a really cool modern composer. Well, he's not modern now, but Ernst Krenek. And then I played Bartok Mikrokosmos pieces. Those were my
Okay.
first ones.
Writing fantasy or composing music, which comes first when inspiration strikes?
Well, right now I'm writing the books free of the music to finish the story. So now it would be the words, but before, when I was starting it, the music came first. So it depends on where you are in my personal journey to answer that one.
Yeah. Well, a book or album that changed your life. I said a book or album that changed your life.
A book or album? Well, when I was young, I really loved Santana,
Okay.
Carlos Santana. That was a great album, especially the piece "Waiting" and the drum music of Baba Olatunji, the classical African music. Love that. But of course, later when I started getting into it, as this, I'm going to do this with my life. It was pieces like Stravinsky pieces, Petrushka, Rite of Spring, between three movements. And in books, of course, The Lord of the Rings, but I'm also a big fan of the Michael Moorcock books, like Elric of Menibene and all these wonderful fantasy stories he wrote. H.P. Lovecraft. When I'm thinking of my monsters in my books, I'm thinking of influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. But my all-time favorite of fantasy book is The Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. If you don't know them, everyone should check them out.
Yeah, I do have a lot of books now to check out from your recommendations. Are you a morning
Good.
person or night owl when it comes to creating?
I'm more of a night owl.
Okay. What's one word to describe what imagination means to you?
Transformation,
Yeah.
the power of transformation.
Yeah. If your piano could speak, what would it say?
My piano would say, play me more. Play music. Play other things too. I love your music, but maybe you should play some other things too.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Christopher.
Thank
We
you.
can, I went through the work you sent, and I was like, wow, wow. It's something I've imagined. Like sometimes, we talk about imagination, imagine things. I see that because I do spoken words and poetry, and so I'm like, oh, what if we could combine this and combine this together? And when I listened to it, I was like, wow, somebody's doing this for fantasy, and I'm like, of course, I could therefore do this for my own too. And it's something I want other persons to check out too, and also listen to, and go through the work. I like the way you call it. You don't call it audiobook, you said audio album. And where can listeners
Yes.
learn more about these works and check them out?
The place to go, the center for it is KaufmanTales.com. Kaufman, Kaufman, KaufmanTales.com. That's where they reside and where you can read about them and acquire them if you wish. So there's, the audio album, and recently the video album. And that's where the graphically illustrated pages, I also do all the art and stuff, they go by and they're integrated with the narration and music. So it's all right there. But then, of course, you can just go to talesoftheoceancity.com. I just got some an artist I'm working with, so the covers are just getting more and more beautiful. She's a wonderful artist. You can finally see what Harloot and Vespucian are supposed to look like up there. talesoftheoceancity.com. If you're just interested in my work, my home site is Sound Artists. That's Sound Art Us. Soundartist.com. That's kind of my interface name. And then
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel, and that's Sound Artist as well, Sound Artist on YouTube. And there's movies of my theatrical works and chamber music, orchestra. You can see me conducting pieces, and all kinds of things on there. So check it
Yeah.
out.
Well, thank you so much, Christopher. I will add all the links you mentioned to the description and the show notes so listeners can just click and go directly to the site. Once again, it was an absolute delight chatting
Thank
with you, and I feel really, really inspired
Same
and
here.
enlightened.
Good.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.